Chicago history, but we're in Rosemont, Illinois today. We're at the Rosemont Theater right off of River Road across the street from the Rosemont Convention Center. Now, this building opened in the mid-90s, and I was here working for a number of years, backstage security for the stars, and opening act when we opened up this theater, I was here from the very first day, was Barry Manilow. And that was an interesting act, to say the least. People from all over the world came to the Rosemont Theater. What was the real cool part about Rosemont and this theater is that we brought stars from all over the world to Rosemont, to the suburban area of Chicago, with a venue that was classy, just like the venues you have downtown. We had David Copperfield here. We had, in fact, I worked the Tonight Show when Jay Leno took over the Tonight Show in the 90s from Johnny Carson. When Carson retired, they actually brought the whole Tonight Show here to Chicago, Illinois, well, Rosemont, Illinois, and they were here for a week, and I worked all of those shows. It was interesting, challenging time, but this is an iconic building. It's just really, really something. It's you know, I love the old theaters. I've been going to theaters in Chicago for probably 40 years or more, and what I love about the theater venues is it's just big enough to where you have a number of people, but it's not too big where it overpowers. Man, some of the great plays I've seen in Chicago, Phantom of the Opera, but here in Rosemont, we've had everybody, you name it, Johnny Mathis, and on and on and on. I could tell you stories. I got a story. You know me, I'm a storyteller, right? I want to tell you a story about what happened here. I was working backstage, and a guy comes in the back door, the dock door, and wasn't dressed in the best of clothes. Well, he comes in, and I see this guy come in by the back door by himself. I don't know who he was. I went up to him. I said, "Excuse me, sir, but can I help you?" And he goes, "Well, I'm Bruce Springsteen." So it's a wonderful story. I stopped Bruce Springsteen. He had a concert here in the late 90s, I believe it was, where he just got up on stage on a stool and his guitar, and he sang to the crowd. And I stopped him at the back door at the Rosemont Theater. You know, it all started in the mid-50s in Rosemont, Illinois. At the time, it was an unincorporated area. There was a lot of farmers, not a lot of residents, but some residents lived here. And they actually hired Donald E. Stevens, who was an attorney at the time, to go and see if they could incorporate into the city of Chicago or Schiller Park or Park Ridge. Well, this area, this whole area where Rosemont, Illinois is, was definitely a swamp. And every time it rained heavily, the farmers would get flooded out. So nobody wanted it. Donald E. Stevens came up with the idea, he did some research, where we could turn this into a village, a suburban village. They named it Rosemont, and they can get federal funding and things on that order. And it all grew from 1956, from a swamp area, and literally, Donald E. Stevens took the swamp out of this area and turned this into a city that's just probably one of the most lucrative cities in the whole Illinois. Seriously, the villages and areas. People came here because of what was going on. The airport to the west, Chicago Municipal Airport at that same time was opened up. It was an apple orchard. They turned into O'Hare International Airport. and everything grew from there. I knew Donald Stevens personally, so I actually worked in this town for 15 years. And in this documentary today, we're going to cover some of the things. Some of them are cute, some of them are funny, some of them are serious. But we're going to cover some of the things on how this village transpired and some of the education I received by working in Rosemont, Illinois for Donald E. Stevens. And also I worked for his son, who was the director of the Police and Fire Board, Donald E. Stevens II. So we got some cool stories for you. You know, this is a long story, but I'm going to get into it really, I want to try to make it real interesting. Don Stevens had a lot of ideas. I called him a dreamer, but there's a difference between a dreamer that just dreams and a dreamer that makes dreams come true. Don Stevens was one of the persons that made dreams come true. This started out as the Expeteria. It was the convention center in Rosemont, Illinois. And many years, many additions and projects went on here. They finally made a tribute to a man that built this town, that built a city here in Rosemont, Illinois, Donald E. Stevens Convention Center, Rosemont. It's just east of O'Hare Airport, and it's west of Chicago, Illinois. And as I said earlier in the show, this was a complete swamp area when Donald Stevens became mayor back in 1956. We're at the original name of this place in Rosemont, Illinois was called the Horizon. This started to be built in the late 1970s. But this story goes back way into the 1950s. Now, if anybody's ever been at the Rosemont Horizon, or now known as the Allstate Arena, you'll see that this area, this parking lot, this building and the structure is sitting about 10 feet higher than Manheim Road. Well, originally when Donald Stevens took over Rosemont, rumor has it that this was 10 feet below grade, below Manheim Road. So every time it rained, it flooded. Well, he cut a deal, rumor has it, he cut a deal with the trucking company, Lindell Trucking, in fact, in the 50s. They were collecting all the debris from all the homes that were being torn down where they built the major expressways. President Eisenhower signed the bill when he became president in the mid-50s to build the interstate highway system. So they tore down a lot of buildings. Inner city, throughout the cities and suburbs. Most of those buildings were all concrete, brick, and heavy materials. Lindell cut a deal with Donald Stevens in Rosemont, where they actually dumped the debris here. Thousands and thousands and thousands of truckloads of debris from the expressways was dumped here, and that's one of the reasons that this is 10 feet higher than Manheim Road. Now, when they went to build this, you got to build a structure like this on something that's stable. And the way they built it, if you've ever been in here, and most of you have, you don't see any beams anywhere in the concert venue, where they play hockey, where they have concerts and everything else. That's because the structure, it's an old-fashioned structure that goes from one end to the other, and that's where the strength is all at. So this is a real killer story. One thing I want to mention, Donald E. Stevens was a friend of mine, and periodically we would talk. I worked for the Village of Rosemont for 15 years, and every now and then I would run into the mayor, and he loved old cars. That's how one of the ways we became friends and stuff. But one thing I admired about him, I talk about dreamers all the time. Some people are dreamers, but a cool dreamer is a dreamer that makes dreams come true. Donald E. Stevens was a dreamer that made dreams come true. He did not know the definition of the word no. He did not know the definition of the words "it can't be done." And he didn't know the definition of the word maybe. When he put his mind to something, it was set in, we're getting it done. It's going to happen. And then I got to say one thing, as I'm getting up in age and that, I know Donald Stevens was spiritual. He was involved with church and the Lord and everything else. Well, I'm sure he spent a lot of time in church talking to the Lord, like I tell you people to do all the time. But he had God on his side. And that's one of the reasons why you have something like this. Started out as the Horizon, and today it's the Allstate Arena, and it really is a cool story just outside of Chicago. We do Chicago history and automotive heaven. Well, I could not do this story with Chicago being closed now. Tour Chicago with Richie Zie. Personal and private tours, 2 people, 4 people, or 6 people. A tour of Chicago you'll never forget. Chicago is our inspiration. The Mag Mile, Museum Campus, Historic Chicago, Theater District, Millennium Park, Water Tower, Art Institute, and so much more. Call Richie Zie at 312-841-2560. Our website is at www.richiezie.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Richie Zie. GoFundMe page. Very important that we get funding for projects like this. We also do historic presentations of Chicago on Zoom. So tune in at richiezie.com. Visit us at YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at RICHIEZIE. Call me direct at 312-841-2560. Go to our website at www.RICHIEZIE.com. GoFundMe at Richie Zie. It's very important that we get funding for programming like this.